It's directing the product to who wants and needs it. Absolutely. Yeah, that's probably a really great explanation of that. You can tailor it specifically to the individual's needs, and marketing dollars are spent more effectively. Yeah, 100%. So understanding that there's actually 3 levels to a Millionaire database, and this comes directly out of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent 2.0. So understanding that the essential information, this is level 1, is to get their name, their contact information, which is their phone number, email, mailing address, their past business and past contact record. So how have I communicated with them? Where do I know them from? What circles do we run in? And that we have at-will communication. So this is one that I'm able to send them some things. They're getting an email, maybe they're getting a postcard. They're not really responding, but we know that they're receiving it. Effective database is one where we now take level 1 and we move it a step further by obtaining permission to have two-way conversations. Would it be possible for me to check in with you from time to time to see if there are any real estate needs that you have that I can help with? That's obtaining permission. I'm going to collect personal information, insights, and preferences. So I can get this by paying attention. I can get this by being intentional with Facebook. You know, I believe that I'm a tech-enabled agent because of Facebook. I have thousands of people on my Facebook. There's no way possible for me to know what's happening in everyone's lives all the time. And yet Facebook does a really good job of algorithmically bringing to the top those really big life events that I would like to be a part of. Facebook will show you when someone gets engaged. It'll show you when someone announces the birth of their child. It will tell you when they're expecting. It'll tell you when they get a new job, when they buy a new car, when they buy a new house, hopefully with you, right? So we can see a lot of these life events that happen in our people's lives through Facebook. And so it's one thing just to go click like congratulations and that be the end of it. It's another thing to take that information and put it in your database so that you can send them a personal card saying congratulations on it being a boy. You can say my sympathies and sorry for your loss. You can send flowers. You can be a part of their world outside of just real estate. Know that they have a dog. Know that they're a football fan or a basketball fan and what's the team that they like. As much of this information as possible is going to make it so that you can just take that level of service to the next level. That was horrible, but let's keep moving. Okay, so then we segment and group based on number 1 through 6. So we want to go ahead and say, who are the people that we know based on where they live? Maybe I'm going to segment them, the people who live in Tampa versus the people who live in St. Pete, maybe Pinellas versus Hillsborough. I might do my dog lovers. I might do homeowners, renters, because I know their mailing address, whether or not that's something that they're homesteading or whether they have a second property. I'm going to get a lot of that information that I can, and then be purposeful and consistent with my communication so that I can have those conversations. You know, I would love to be able to check in with the people in my world every 6 weeks because their dog had puppies, or because they had a birth in the family, or because they got engaged, or because they had a new job. Those are the types of times that I want to pick up the phone and just call and say congratulations. I don't necessarily want to get to a place where every time I call someone, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, no, I don't know anybody who wants to buy or sell real estate right now. If someone says that to you, let that be a sign that the only time that you're showing up in their life, it looks like it's because you need something. That's not coming from contribution. That's not coming from gratitude. That's actually a taking mentality instead of a giving. Now, it doesn't matter if that was your intention, right? Maya Angelou, it doesn't matter what you said. It doesn't matter what you did. It matters how you made them feel. So if you make someone feel like every time that you call, it's only because you want something, then we have to work on that. And that's why it's so important for us to build relationships first and foremost. I can't use those quotes enough. That is, we're in the people business until they have a real estate need, and then we're in the real estate business, number 1. And then number 2 is that what would your world look like if everybody in your database felt like they were part of your inner circle? You would absolutely be a millionaire, or you would make as much money as you wanted to make, and you'd be able to have the life by design. For those of you that are saying, well, I'm not driven by money, Okay, and I understand that. And yet, to give the life that you want to give to the people that are in your world, you live in a capitalist society of which there is a currency that's associated with some of those experiences. So let's get out of that and just make sure that we're being intentional to say that you could have whatever level of success that you want simply by just being in relationships with the people that you should be in relationships with, is my point. Now let's talk about an exceptional database. We take all of that information and then we have automated custom communications that are built around those triggers. So making sure that this is not just, I send an email every month, every month, every month. I send a postcard every month, every month, every month. That is amazing. Again, it's now to have automated custom communication that's going to be built around certain triggers. Are there updates in their neighborhood? Is there maybe a new cat cafe that's going to be opening on Central that you can now take all of the people that are in your database that you have targeted as cat lovers? Can you then send them to, or send them the article specifically letting them know, did you hear the news? There's a new cat cafe that's opening. And no, that's not Miss Kitty Cat Boston. We're talking about physical cats, and it's the Cat Fae. That is off of, I think, First or Central. But I digress. The point is that you're building your business to a level that is so much more. You know, I don't know about you. We actually, for whatever reason, haven't been really getting a lot of mail lately. And it's probably because I have everything virtual or they're just not paying for it. But for a very long time, the things that we would get in the mail are gym, liposuction for plastic surgeons, you know, the Anytime Fitness things. And then we'd also get stuff about cars. Well, none of those are relevant or necessary, and you're going to throw them away. It's the same thing as the, you know, the Chinese restaurant menu. You just kind of throw that in the junk drawer, you put it somewhere, and it's irrelevant until the time that you're like, man, I really want Chinese. Do you remember where we put that menu? And you're searching everywhere to find it. That's the same thing with marketing. We're going to be sending them information about real estate, and for potentially years, it's completely irrelevant to their world. No, we're not interested. No, we're not interested. No, we're not interested, until the time that they're interested. And then it's so important that you've been showing up either just before or just after they've made that decision. So now that we take kind of the explanation of what is a database, now is why use one. So for one, it's to avoid the today trap. And so the today trap is the idea that I'm only going to be focused on the business that comes today. And every day I have to wake up going, where am I going to find my next meal? You know, this is the idea of someone who doesn't establish a steady flow of business. They're going to be in a constant state of stress of where's my business going to come from. Two, on a more positive note, is that there's a predictable return on investment. If I'm going to go and spend $1,000 to be a part of a festival that happens over the weekend that I can set up a booth, I really don't know how predictable my return on investment is going to be. If I speak to 400 people and yet don't get any of their contact information, don't have a meaningful conversation about real estate, am I going to have a successful return on investment? Or the opposite, what would it look like if I spent $1,000 communicating to the people who already know me, like me, and trust me, and are reminded that I'm in real estate, so that when they're having the conversation with their best friend, or they're having the conversation that their in-laws are thinking about moving closer to be with the grandchildren, that just before that conversation or just after that conversation, they've received a postcard or they've received an email or they've seen us sell something on social media that reminds them, and that's a targeted trigger. That's their reason to want to use us for their business. So understanding that there are two types of business, there's today business and tomorrow's business. And without a database, your business is built only for today. And a perfect example of this is what we talked about of many people who get into this industry. And the last time that they take the for sale sign out of the yard from their last listing is the last paycheck that they ever get. And it's because they've not built relationships with long-standing clients. They are, you know, there's a reason why the rear view mirror is so small as opposed to what we look through with the glass on our cars. And oftentimes we don't realize that that's a direct correlation. And yet all of our business, all of our wealth is actually in that little itty bitty rearview mirror if we want it to be. It's going to require you to not work as hard. I don't know about some of the ladies that are on here that have been seasoned. My favorite calls are the come list me calls. These are people who, I mean, you've basically walked into a paycheck of $9,000 because you've just maintained a relationship. Eve says, yes, yes, yes. I mean, it's unbelievable that you could have potentially almost all of your expenses for the year, you know, and that's the thing that I want to get you excited about. When you have a successful database and you stay in communication with people, what would it look like if you had your core expenses were all paid for by come list me's that required nothing other than to communicate with the people that you already know? And now some people will say, well, that's not lead generation. Well, that's absolutely lead follow-up, because these are people that are in your database that you're staying in relations. It's why it's so important that you communicate with them on the phone. It's important that you go to the events. You know, when you don't want to go to their 1-year-old's birthday party because you know that the 1-year-old's never going to remember this birthday party ever, that's exactly why you go to the birthday party, because it was never about the kid. It was about the parent. And so it's those types of things that you realize there's the activities that you have to do. Yeah, and so to understand, Eve said that absolutely. Also, they are exposed to other agents constantly, right? I've told that story. I've got a cousin that she has a sorority sister that, you know, they've been best friends for 20 some odd years, and her sorority sister sells real estate part-time. And yet to my cousin, in her mind, somehow that person and I are on the exact same level of experience, of knowledge, of being able to market their property effectively. And that's because I have to do the job that is to tell the story that we are different than every other realtor. To Eve's point, you have to be doing targeted marketing and stay in line with the people that are in your world so that they can know who you are and that you are the person that they're supposed to go to, even though they have a relationship with others. To Doreen, it's a response to marketing, hard work, etc., and recognition. Absolutely. So why use a database? So this is an example. You've got so many people that are in your world, and we already know that about 88% of people would use a real estate agent again that they've used, and yet only 12% actually do. So let me tell that again. This is the idea that people usually, 88% of people would use their database again, or would use their realtor again, and yet only 12% actually do. And so when you look at what your database, you can segment them out on who are my VIPs. And this is an example that you might have 6 people in your world that these are the ones that every single day are pounding the pavement. The second they hear someone talk about real estate, they are your raving fan. It's not always, but we want to eventually get everyone to this place of being a raving fan of you, your business, the level of marketing and things that you're doing to get exposure for property. That's what we want to do to help with our business so that everyone can become a raving fan. So to take advantage of a predictable return on investment is that we know that basically the answer used to be in the MREA that was written in 2004, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that you should be able to get about a 10% return on investment from your database. Well, what we realize now, to Eve's point, they're being constantly bombarded by other agents, other big companies that are talking about how they can do it for a cheaper commission, or they can do a better job because they have more success, whatever it might be. And so because there's more noise, more white noise now than there was in 2004 around real estate and around marketing, we say that it's about a 14-to-1 response. So for every dollar that you spend, you should be generating at least $14 of business, is this idea. So consider it that it's much easier for you to retain a client than it is for you to gain a client. And that's the same thing for restaurants. That's the same thing for any business. Client retention is such a more cost-effective than actual client acquisition. So when you choose to spend money on a geographic farm with people that you do not know, as opposed to spending any money at all with the people that you already know, just know that that cost for the return on investment is significantly greater when you go after the people that you already know. So understanding what this looks like. So there are 3 important conversions to cost that we want to think about. Number 1 is what's the lowest lead cost, the cheapest customer acquisition to work with an existing customer that you already know, who already knows you and likes you. The lowest conversion cost. So when properly built and maintained, the database will actually end up producing its own leads in the form of repeat clients and referrals. And it will also have the lowest conversion cost. You know, to have a friend give you a call and say, hey, I just gave your name to so-and-so, that's one of the greatest things that can happen to your database, because I promise you, no other business, Google's not doing that. Zillow's not doing that. Facebook's not doing that. Hey, by the way, I sent your information to someone else. And then lastly, it pays for itself. A database makes it easier to do consistent follow-up. And when you're good at consistent follow-up, the results leading will end up paying for themselves quite literally. So again, going back to how are we feeding it consistently is we must be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. And so we're going to do that by ensuring that prospecting, the benefits are its immediate results, right? So this is today business. We get to be proactive in the activities that we're doing. I get to have real response to the results of what I get. And yes, it's time intensive. So it is going to require more of my time to ensure that I get those results. And yet prospecting as the foundation of my business also means a profitable business. Marketing, on the other hand, so we want to be prospecting based, marketing enhanced. It's going to be long-term results. So this is tomorrow's business. This is 6 months from now's business. This is a years from now business. It's passive. So marketing should be working when you're not working, right? My ads that run 24 hours a day using campaigns and command, that's working when I'm not working. That's working when I'm coaching. That's working when I'm spending time with family. And yet I do not necessarily expect for it to yield me immediate results today. When talking about farming, we know that farming could take anywhere between 6 months all the way up to 14 months before you actually see a real return on investment. And so again, those are long-term results that is very money intensive. So we want to make sure that the basis of our business is always built on phone calls, face-to-face interactions, being present and visible in our people's lives. And then we can pepper in some of the marketing things that we do. So feeding it constantly looks like adding 10 people to the database a day, or updating 10 people's notes in our database, which comes from our conversations. So we can segment into groups. So is it a business relationship? Is it someone that I know because they haven't done any business with me yet? Maybe they're an active client, a past client, someone who's referred business your way. Maybe they're a VIP, so they're a serial repeat and referral client. Maybe they share in your hobbies and your interests. Maybe you know them from fishing or from boating or from Orange Theory, whatever it might be, the things that you're doing outside of work that you have a relationship with. Maybe you have them segmented as the types of property. Do you know who in your world are in condos? Who in your world are in condos that are beachfront condos? Maybe they're investors. Maybe they're vendors like your home inspector, your photographer, your plumber, whomever, that are also doing business. You know, I remember we had a property where they were putting in new floorings, and then they also needed to put new rings around the toilet. So both a flooring company and a plumber were there that week. While I was having this conversation with them, both of them were asking about the property because they were interested in buying. They were actively looking. And I was so kind of shocked, because you'd think someone who does flooring all day, every day, and someone who's a plumber, that they would already have had a great relationship with a real estate agent, and they didn't. And so if we don't ask the questions of our vendors to make sure that we're communicating with them, seeing if they have any real estate needs or if they know anybody who has real estate needs, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. Because remember, we are the salespeople. We have to remind the people in our world that we're in this business. It's not their job to remember that you're a real estate agent. So custom tags, this is what we've talked about a couple times. I don't need to do a demonstration on this because I've already shown you how to do this earlier this week twice now. However, during the time when we're practicing on command, if you do have questions, I will show you how to do that. The custom tags are yours to make. So do I want to say plumber? Do I want to say electrician? Do I want to say dog lover? What are the custom tags that I want to create that are outside of just buyer, seller, renter, investor? So we want to engage with them. So remember that it's 19 to connect and 36 to convert. So with our leads, these are people that we have a one-way conversation with. Maybe it's someone from your open house sign-in sheet. Maybe it's someone from your farm area. Maybe it's someone on your Facebook or your social media. You're working with them in a one-way conversation. They see your stuff. They get to choose whether or not to like it or engage. So in order to connect with that person, to gain permission so that it can be a two-way conversation, we encourage 4 quarterly phone calls, 12 touches that are monthly emails, newsletters, market reports, or some kind of video that they can get access to via email. It's 2 promotional direct mails, such as a magnet, a calendar, a market report, something that could be of value. And then 1 annual event, party, movie screening, get together, something that you can do in the community to bring people together. For contacts, these are the people that you already have a relationship with. They know you, like you, trust you, and are now engaging with you, but they're looking for valuable content. We want to do the 36 to convert. So we want to have 4 quarterly calls on the telephone. We want to have 26 touches that are biweekly emails that offer them some kind of information, whether it's about their particular neighborhood or about real estate as a whole. 2 events that are either get-togethers, parties, client appreciation parties, whatever it might be. And then 4 touches of promotional material, such as a magnet, a calendar, market report, etc. And then we need to tend to it over time. So there are 2 ways to tend to your database. You can build a culture around testimonials and reviews, which is, in my opinion, the best thing that you can do. To have others talk about how great of an experience it is with you is one of the best things that can happen for your business. And then we can also regularly update and prune our database. There are some people in our database that actually no longer want to communicate with us. They no longer want to be in business with us. They've built a new relationship with an agent. They don't like me as a person. Whatever it might be, I don't care. I do not want to be spending money on that person if they have no intention of doing business with us. So we will prune regularly. Maybe it's someone who moved out of the area that we didn't know because they didn't use us as their real estate agent. A lot of this falls on us. And that's why it's so important that we regularly update by staying regularly in communication with the people in our world so that we can build a really great business. All right, so let's talk about some ahas from this process. So how has your thinking changed? What ideas or mindsets were new for you out of this conversation? And what was meaningful for you today around building and feeding the database? Let's go ahead and put that in the chat box so we can see what that looks like for you. Okay, so Doreen says that she tends to hang on to leads too long, possibly. Yeah, if they're not a client and they're just a lead, we know that that's the unfortunate thing when it just never actually turns into business, for sure. What else? Using tags as information bites about clients. Yeah, love that. That's definitely been one of the greatest things as a benefit. I know that Kat was asking, how is that helpful? It really can be when you start to direct information that way. So who do I know that's politically involved, that maybe I want to send them an article specifically? Who do I know that's a dog lover that I want to let them know about Bark in the Park happening at the Rays this weekend? Who do I know that's a food lover that I can tell about an upcoming festival that they can go and attend? Yeah, to Doreen's point, golf is a good one too. Yeah, tagging people for golf, if that's a hobby that you share, that's one of the things that can be helpful. Linda says, many things I know, but helps to know where to focus, and that careful attention to database will truly pay off. Yeah, some people will say, this is really too detail oriented. You really shouldn't be focused on all that stuff in the beginning. I say that's hogwash, because if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? When you get really busy? Because I promise you, I do not want to touch my database right now. And I have so much work that I need to do. And yet I know that I have to, because I know that there's a direct correlation to the success of the team this year to how effective we communicate with our database. So absolutely, if you're not doing it now, when are you going to do it? And then how will behaviors be different going forward? So what actions will you be taking this week around the information that we've talked about today? So Doreen said yesterday that she loved that she learned how to add neighborhoods and how that info goes to customers. She worked on this yesterday and is following up with note cards after the call. Love that. Great. What else? So Kelly says that she needs to create more tags. Absolutely. Linda, continue to plug away at building a database and keep thinking who else to add. Yeah, also, I want to make sure that you're understanding that the purpose of the daily 10-4 is to build your habits. So I know that I've been the victim to just trying to do a day, and I spend all day working on the database, and I've added 100 people to the database. That's not building a habit. It's much easier for me to be building a habit that is having 10 people added to my database every single day, 10 times a day, 10 times a day, 10 times a day. And a year later, you'll see wild success around the work that you're doing with your database because of the fact that you've been building this habit of going in and doing it. So try not to spend a day or a week just doing nothing but the database, because remember that a successful agent does both growing their business and running their business every single day. And so it's about building these habits as daily habits. All right. With that being said, we've got a few people here. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and change some information around so that we can be talking about your script partners. From 10 to 10:30, we're going to be focused on you and your script partners. So if you have not, if you're just joining us today and this is something that you have not already been added to, then I'm going to go ahead and reshare this link in the chat box for you. Please add your name and your phone number below the list, and we'll make sure that people can get a hold of you. Another thing that's going to be important is that if yesterday you were not able to connect with your script partner, or if today, if you see that there's a script partner next to your name that is not communicating with you, please come into this chat box and let people know that you need a script partner. I don't necessarily care about you being loyal to this person if this person is not showing up to Ignite or is not willing to do script practice. It's your time between now and 10:30 to be doing your script practice. So please, please, please click on that link below. Make sure that your name is in there, that you have the name of your script partner and their phone number. If you find that your script partner hasn't put their phone number down or you need a new one, then go ahead and raise your hand here in the chat box so that you can connect with someone else. I will be here to look in the chat box to answer any questions if you have. Please pick a script from the script book or work on forward, work on family, occupation, recreation, and dream questions with your script partner so that you can be making care calls from 10:30 to 11:30 during our lead gen time. All right, I'm going to break here for a moment so that you can call one another and get started on your script practice between now, and we're going to come back at 10:25 so that we can recap around our script partners and we can do a practice role play here live in front of you before we get into our lead gen.